Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unravel the mysteries lurking in the shadows and explore the stories that send shivers down your spine. From unsolved crimes to paranormal encounters, from eerie legends to the unknown, we're here to take you on a journey into the unexplained. Every story has layers, and every layer brings us closer to the truth or deeper into the mystery. So grab a seat, turn down the lights, and get ready to dive into the unknown. This is the Deep Dive.
All right, so we're diving into a pretty unsettling story today. You guys have asked us to dig into the whole mystery surrounding Kremers and Lisanne Froon, two Dutch students who, vanished while hiking in Panama.
Yeah.
And we've got your stack of articles, research, even some firsthand accounts. And let me tell you, this case is a rabbit hole.
It really is.
So our mission, I guess you could say, it's to retrace their steps, really scrutinize the evidence, and see if we can make some sense of all the conflicting theories.
Oh, yeah. This case is infamous. It's one of those that really captured the world's attention, partly because it remains officially unsolved. Just a ton of theories swirling around it.
That's exactly why our listener picked it. And they know you geek out over this kind of stuff, all the digital breadcrumbs and such.
Well, they're not wrong. I did get a little carried away with the research on this one. The photos, the phone records, it's like a digital mystery novel.
So you've shared a bunch of details about Chris and Lisanne, and they seem like more than just best friends.
Oh, absolutely. More like two sides of the same coin, really. From everything their families and friends have said, Chris, she was the free spirit. Infectious laugh, real go-getter. Lisanne, now, she was the planner. Always organized, level-headed. And yet they clicked.
They balanced each other out.
Exactly.
Yin and yang, heading out to experience a new culture together. I mean, they even planned to teach local children during their trip, even raise money for toys and supplies.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you see these two young women. They set out on this adventure, this celebratory trip. Everything's planned perfectly. And then, well, it all goes terribly wrong.
It really makes you think twice about those, find yourself trips, right?
Especially in a location as diverse and, frankly, wild as Panama.
Right. When we think Panama, it's usually lush rainforest, pristine beaches, maybe the canal, not necessarily vanishing tourists.
And this is where that whole context thing comes in. Panama, as beautiful as it is, has a wilder side too. Remote areas, dense jungles, weather can turn on a dime. It could be a very dangerous place if you're not prepared.
Which is where I'm guessing the El Pianista trail comes in. I saw that mentioned a lot in the stuff you sent.
Bingo. El Pianista means the pianist, right? Sounds kind of charming, but it's deceptive. It's this well-known hiking trail near Bouquet, where the women were staying. Considered pretty safe, winds through the rainforest, popular with tourists.
Yeah, always a but, right? There's always a but.
Right. So there are these offshoot paths, less defined trails, leading deeper into the jungle. And those are the paths you absolutely don't want to wander down without a guide. Easy to get turned around, terrain gets treacherous, and if you lose your way, well, the jungle doesn't give up its secrets easily,
So they set out on this hike. Then what? This is where the timeline gets really interesting.
Right. And this is the case with so many missing persons cases. Conflicting witness accounts, gaps in the timeline, makes it so hard to piece together exactly what happened.
Like trying to put together a puzzle, but with half the pieces missing.
Exactly. So we know they started the hike on April 1st, dressed for a casual hike, small backpack with essentials. Lisanne had brought her camera.
Right.
And here's where it gets murky. Several people reported seeing them later that afternoon.
Wait, so they were already heading back?
That's what's weird. Around 3:30 p.m., people saw them coming back down the trail, looking tired, sweaty. They even apparently spoke to a few people, including a restaurant owner near the trailhead.
So they weren't lost at that point. But if they were heading back by late afternoon, what happened? Why didn't they make it home?
That's the million-dollar question. See, they were staying with a local host family while volunteering. And the family wasn't immediately alarmed when they didn't come back that night. Figured maybe they'd gone out with friends or something.
Yeah, you'd think, oh, they're young, they're exploring. But surely by the next day, someone was freaking out.
Oh, absolutely. On April 2nd, they missed the scheduled tour. That's when things escalated. The tour guide, the school receptionist, they went to their room, even used a spare key to get in. Gone. By that evening, after frantic calls to their cell phones went unanswered, the police were notified.
Man, I can only imagine the families at this point. Just the agonizing wait for any news. So the search begins, right? What did they find?
Well, initially, nothing.
Yeah.
It was like the jungle had just swallowed them whole.
Yeah.
Search parties, dogs, even helicopters combing the area. Weeks went by, and still, nothing. Then, 10 weeks after they vanished, a local woman finds something along a riverbank miles from the trail.
Don't tell me. The backpack.
A backpack.
10 weeks, that's a long time for a backpack to be out in the elements, let alone a rainforest, and still be dry. Talk about strange. What was actually in the backpack when it was found?
Right. You'd expect it to be waterlogged, moldy, who knows what, after that amount of time. But this backpack was in shockingly good condition. Inside, they found Chris and Lisanne's passports, their phones, even Lisanne's camera.
No way.
Yeah.
All still intact after 10 weeks in a rainforest.
Totally dry and organized. Even weirder, all their cash was untouched.
Okay, I'm officially creeped out. If I were lost in the jungle, I wouldn't be too concerned with neatly packing my passport. And you can bet I'd be using that cash to try and find help. It really does sound like someone wanted these items to be found.
That's what's so strange about it, is like they were deliberately preserving certain things. But why?
Exactly. It's one of those details that just makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Yeah.
And it gets weirder, right? Along the same river, searchers discovered bone fragments.
They did.
Ah.
A rib, a pelvis, and most disturbingly, Lisanne's foot still inside her hiking boot.
Wait, her foot. Still in the boot. That's horrifying. What did the forensics experts have to say about the condition of the bones?
Well, the bones were in different stages of decomposition, suggesting they hadn't been together all that time. Lisanne's foot, though, was eerily well preserved. Even stranger, it had a clean cut on it. Definitely not the kind of injury you'd expect from a fall or an animal attack.
A clean cut? Are you saying it was deliberate?
It's a disturbing thought, isn't it? Adding to the mystery, they found traces of chemicals on some of the bones, possibly suggesting attempts to speed up decomposition.
Oh, God. That's awful. But if someone was trying to hide something, wouldn't they have gotten rid of everything?
You'd think so, right? But then again, we're talking about a dense rainforest. It's not exactly an easy place to dispose of evidence without a trace.
True enough. Okay, so we've got this bizarre backpack situation and some truly grim discoveries. What about Lisanne's camera? You mentioned it was found in the backpack. What kind of clues did that hold?
This is where we get into the digital breadcrumbs they left behind. And trust me, this is where things get really interesting. Remember those early summit photos we talked about? Well, after those, there were over 90 photos taken a week later.
A week later? You mean a week after they went missing? What were they taking pictures of in the dark?
Exactly. Most of these were taken between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. They're blurry, mostly just branches, leaves, the forest floor.
So they were taking pictures in the middle of the night, in the pitch black. Were they trying to signal for help, maybe?
That was the initial thought, but it's hard to say. Some of the photos show what look like piles of rocks or sticks laid out on the ground, almost like they were trying to mark a trail.
Like a trail of breadcrumbs, but digital.
Exactly. And there's one photo that's particularly chilling. It's a close-up of what looks like Chris's hair, possibly with blood.
Okay, that's just sending shivers down my spine. It's like they were desperately trying to leave some sort of clue.
Unconventional methods to signal for help.
Okay, but even if the nighttime photos were an SOS, what about photo 509, the one that was deleted? Unrecoverable. It's like a hole in their digital timeline.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Because deleting a photo from a digital camera, it's not like hitting delete on your computer. It's more complex than that. And experts who analyze the camera data believe photo 509, it wasn't just accidentally erased, it was deliberately removed, probably through a computer.
So someone went to a lot of trouble to make sure that photo was never seen. What does that tell us?
Well, it certainly challenges the official explanation, doesn't it?
Which is?
That the girls got lost, fell from a monkey bridge, and succumbed to the elements. It's a neat and tidy explanation, but
it doesn't explain the deleted photo or the condition of their remains. Scattered miles apart in different stages of decomposition. It's like
something or someone scattered them deliberately.
Exactly. And while an animal attack can't be totally ruled out, the condition of the remains, it just doesn't quite fit.
It raises more questions than it answers, which brings us to the other theories you've shared.
Theories ranging from, well, organ harvesting
to gang violence, even potential connections to human trafficking.
It's terrifying to even think about.
It is, but the truth is, these are realities in that part of the world. And in a case as murky as this one, we have to consider all possibilities.
And then there are those suspicious deaths seemingly connected to the case. The taxi driver, that young man whose picture was on one of their phones. Every time you pull on a thread, it's like the whole thing unravels even more.
Precisely. And we can't overlook the role of those who were initially seen as helpful. The guides, for example.
You mean Guide F, the one who was so invested in finding the girls and just happened to find a bunch of key evidence? The timing always seemed off.
Let's just say his story has some holes in it. Contradictory statements. rumors about his son, allegations that he wasn't always, how should I put this, a friend to tourists.
Are we really suggesting he might have been involved?
I'm suggesting we have to consider every angle. And while there's no direct evidence linking him to their disappearance, the inconsistencies in his statements, his proximity to the investigation, it warrants scrutiny.
Okay, what about the other guide, Guide P? He was the one who claimed to have seen the girls on the trail, but then changed his story, right? And something about him deleting photos from the summit that day?
You've done your homework. He claimed he was just freeing up space on his camera, but it's a curious detail, wouldn't you say? Especially given everything else.
Given everything else, what else is there?
Let's just say there were whispers about his behavior towards female tourists. Allegations he denied, of course, but still. It adds another layer of unease to an already deeply disturbing story.
So we're left with what? More questions than answers. A sense that something terrible happened, but no real understanding of what that was.
And that's the heart of it, isn't it? Chris and Lisanne's story is a stark reminder that sometimes, despite our best efforts, some truths remain elusive.
It's frustrating, you know. We uncover all these facts, these details, but the big picture stays blurry. It's like we're trying to assemble a puzzle, but the pieces keep changing shape.
That's the nature of mystery, isn't it? We want a clean narrative, a satisfying resolution. But the truth is rarely that simple. And in Chris and Lisanne's case, that missing photo, it's like a void, a question mark at the center of everything.
And we can't forget about that agreement their parents made with the Panamanian authorities. The one they can't talk about, what's in those files, why the secrecy.
It certainly adds another layer of intrigue. What information are they shielding? Could it be related to the investigation itself? Or something even more unsettling? It's impossible to say, but it's definitely a piece of the puzzle that needs further exploration.
So where are we left? We've got all these possibilities swirling around. A tragic accident, a wrong turn with devastating consequences, or something truly sinister involving violence and a cover-up. It's a lot to unpack.
It is. And honestly, I think the biggest takeaway here is that sometimes, despite our best efforts, some truths remain elusive. We're left with fragments, whispers, and the heartbreaking reality that 2 young lives were cut short.
So what do we do with that? For those listening, those who, like us, have tumbled down this rabbit hole, what would you suggest? Where do we go from here?
Don't be afraid to question, to dig deeper. Look for those inconsistencies, those details that don't quite add up, because often that's where the real story lies hidden.
If you were leading the charge on this case, where would you focus your energy? What's the next step?
That missing photo. I'd want to exhaust every avenue, try every technique to recover it. What if, hidden within that digital void, lies the answer we've been searching for? It's a long shot, but in a case like this, even the smallest clue could be the key.
It's a haunting thought. And a reminder that even in our hyper-connected world, some stories remain shrouded in mystery, leaving us with more questions than answers. This has been a tough one, but thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We'll be back next time with another case, another mystery, another chance to unravel the truth together.
And that's a wrap for this episode of The Deep Dive. I hope you enjoyed today's exploration into today's mystery, and that it gave you some valuable insights to think about. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on all our future deep dives. As always, thanks for diving deep with us today. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.